I stood there in the drizzle outside St. Mary's Cemetery in Davenport, Iowa, the only soul under that godforsaken gray sky, watching the backhoe operator dump the first shovelful of red clay onto Grandpa's casket like it was just another Tuesday chore. My phone had been vibrating nonstop in my pocket, texts from Mom, Dad, my sister Lila, and even that sleazy cousin Eddie, each one a masterpiece of bullshit excuses. Traffic's a nightmare. Finley, we'll make it up to you. Or flu hit hard.
Kiddo.
But we're thinking of you. Thinking of me? Bullshit. They weren't thinking of Grandpa either. The man who'd clawed his way from a one-room shack in the Dust Bowl to owning half the trucking routes between Chicago and St. Louis, only to die alone in his lazy boy with a John Wayne flick flickering on the TV and a half-eaten TV dinner congealing on the tray. I tossed a single red rose onto the dirt, whispered,
Sadi,
old man, and turned away before the tears could hit. Because crying in the rain just makes you look like a drowned rat in a bad country song. 2 days later, the conference room at Hargrove and Associates smelled like stale coffee and desperation. The kind of place where small-town lawyers peddle big dreams to folks who've got nothing but regrets. I showed up early, nursing a black coffee in a styrofoam cup, my boots still caked with cemetery mud because fuck if they thought I'd clean up for the circus. The family trickled in like they were late for a tailgate, Mom in her faux fur coat that screamed, nouveau riche from the Walmart clearance rack, Dad fiddling with his tie like it was choking him more than his gambling debts. Lila scrolling Instagram on her phone with those acrylic nails clicking like castanets. And Eddie. Oh, Eddie. Slinking in last with his sharkskin loafers and that grin that said he'd already lawyered up in his head. Not one of them mentioned the funeral. Not a how'd it go, Finn, or wish we could have been there.
No.
They dove straight into the small talk, eyes darting to the manila envelope on the table like it was the Ark of the Covenant. Old Mr. Hargrove, with his half-moon glasses and that voice like gravel in a blender, cleared his throat and started reading. Grandpa's will was a goddamn novel, bequests to the VFW Hall, the local food bank, even a scholarship for kids from the wrong side of the tracks like he'd been. But when he got to the meat of it, the room went pin-drop silent. The estate, 3 trucking companies, a sprawling farm outside town, and a portfolio of stocks worth north of $8 million was to be divided equally among his grandkids, me, Lila, and our cousin Eddie. Equal shares.
No caveats. No trusts.
Just straight-up cash and keys to the kingdom. Mom gasped like she'd won the Powerball. Dad slapped the table with a hot damn. And Lila squealed, already mentally redecorating her McMansion in the burbs. Eddie, he just leaned back, that weasel smile widening, like he'd orchestrated the whole thing. I sat there, staring at the paper, feeling the weight of it all crash down like a semi on black ice. Equal shares. After everything. After they'd left me to rot in that juvenile detention center at 16 for a crime that wasn't mine. After Grandpa bailed me out with his last favors and covered for their screw-ups. After I'd spent the last decade scraping by as a long-haul driver, dodging DUIs and dead-end motels while they partied on his dime. The betrayal hit me then, not like a punch, but a slow bleed, deep, in the kind that festers until you're hollowed out. Grandpa knew. He'd whispered it to me on his deathbed, his voice a rasp over the oxygen mask. They took from you,
Boy.
what you did for them. It was family. But family's a two-way street, and they ain't paid their toll. I crumpled the edge of the will in my fist.
Ta stink bile.
And that's when the hook sank in deep. I wasn't walking away with my cut. Not without making them choke on every lie they'd fed me since we were kids. It started back in '09. The summer heat baking the asphalt in our podunk neighborhood on the edge of the Mississippi. I was 15, all gangly limbs and dreams of getting out, maybe joining the Marines like Grandpa had in Nam. Lila was 13, already a mini manipulator with her pigtails and crocodile tears. And Eddie, Christ. Eddie was the ringleader at 17. With his fake ID and that beat-up Camaro he'd borrowed from his old man's garage. We were thick as thieves, the three of us, running wild while Mom and Dad worked doubles at the casino to keep the lights on. Grandpa was our rock, slipping us 20s for White Castle runs and telling stories about outrunning Japs in the jungle that made us feel invincible. But Eddie had stars in his eyes. The bad kind, the ones that lead to crystal meth and grand theft auto. He'd gotten his hands on a $250 from some tweaker buddy up in Rock Island, planning to flip it for enough to buy his way into community college, or some such delusion. Easy money, Finn, he'd say, slapping my back like we were Sinaloa cartel. You in? I wasn't. Not really. But family pulls you under like quicksand. Lila egged him on, batting her lashes and cooing about the designer jeans she'd score. One night, shit went sideways. Eddie botched the deal, panicked, pulled a switchblade when the buyer pulled a gun. A scuffle, a shot fired into the air, and suddenly sirens wailed. We scattered like roaches. I took the fall. Not because I was noble, God. No, but because Eddie begged, tears streaming, swearing he'd make it right. You're the baby.
Fun.
They'll go easy. Lila's too young for juvie. Mom and Dad, they looked the other way, too buried in their own vices to question it. Grandpa found out later, pieced it together from the police reports. But by then the plea deal was sealed. 18 months in the youth facility upstate. My record stained like oil on a white shirt. Eddie walked free. Joined the army for a tour in Afghanistan that he spun into veteran cred for job interviews. Lila got sympathy cards and a fresh start at high school.
Me?
I came home a ghost. Tattoos from the yard fights inked into my skin like reminders. And Grandpa was the only one who saw me. Really saw me. Pulling me into his garage to tinker on engines and muttering, "Blood's thicker than water. But it don't mean it can't drown you." Years blurred after that. I drove rigs for Grandpa's fleet. 18-wheelers hauling freight from the Quad Cities to the coasts, sleeping in the cab under sodium lights while the family forgot. Mom hit the slots harder. Dad chased skirts and bookies. Lila married some finance bro named Chad who flipped houses and her world upside down with coke-fueled rages. Eddie? He came back a hero in his own mind. Started a consulting firm that was basically shaking down ex-cons for protection money. They all leaned on Grandpa loans for down payments, bail for bar fights, tuition for Lila's business degree that she never used. And me? I was the reliable one, the mule, fixing what broke without a word. Grandpa's cancer diagnosis hit like a freight train in 23. Pancreatic. Stage 4. The docs said, giving him 6 months that stretched to 18 because the old bastard was too stubborn to quit. I moved into his ranch house on the outskirts, the one with the creaky porch swing and the American flag snapping in the wind, trading my motel life for bedpans and morphine runs. The family visited in rotations, Mom with casseroles she bought from Hy-Vee, Dad with tall tales that never landed, Lila with selfies and sob stories about her toxic marriage. Eddie was the worst. Wheedling investment tips like Grandpa's portfolio was his personal ATM. Finn's got it covered, they'd say, patting my shoulder on the way out. You're a saint, brother. But saints don't plot. As Grandpa faded, he started talking secrets, the kind that curdle in your gut. Turns out, he'd known about the drug bust from day one, hired a PI to confirm it, buried the evidence in a safe deposit box downtown. I covered for them,
Fin et Deweese.
clutching my hand with veins like map rivers. Wipe the slate 'cause you're the glue. But they ain't learned. Greed's a cancer worse than this. He made me promise. Watch the will. Protect what's yours. I nodded, but inside, the fuse was lit. When he flatlined on that November morning, monitors beeping like accusations, I held his hand and whispered, "They'll pay." Pop. Every cent, back in the conference room. Hargrove droned on about probate timelines, but I tuned him out. My mind a storm of what-ifs. Lila was already texting Chad about private school for the Rugrats. Eddie murmuring to Dad about liquidating assets for a group investment. Mom dabbed her eyes with a tissue that was drier than her heart. I cleared my throat, voice steady as a diesel idol. "Hold up, Mr. Hargrove. There's an addendum, ain't there?" Something Grandpa mentioned. The room froze. Hargrove blinked, shuffling papers. Addendum? I don't recall, but I pulled it from my jacket pocket. The handwritten codicil Grandpa had me notarized 2 weeks back. His signature shaky but ironclad. "Read this," I said, sliding it across. Eyes widened as Hargrove's voice cracked the seal. To Finley alone. The majority stake in the trucking empire. On condition he exposes the truth of the '09 incident to the family. The rest? Frozen until restitution is made for the years stolen. The blame shouldered. The lies swallowed. Chaos erupted. "What the hell is this?" Eddie snarled, face twisting like a wrung rag. Lila wailed, "Finley, you bastard. That's not fair." Mom clutched her pearls, fake ones. Naturally, and Dad just stared. Mouth agape like a largemouth bass. I leaned back, crossing my arms, the first real smile in months cracking my face. "Fair? You want to talk fair? Ask me about the cell that smelled like piss and regret, or the jobs that ghosted me 'cause of a juvie rap sheet I didn't earn." The hook was set. Now came the reel-in. But as they lunged with accusations, I saw it in their eyes, the flicker of guilt, the shadow of what they'd buried. Grandpa's revenge wasn't mine alone, it was ours. And damn if it didn't feel like coming home. The drive back to Grandpa's ranch that afternoon was a blur of wipers slapping rain and radio static. Some classic rock station crooning Springsteen about working-class ghosts. My knuckles whitened on the wheel of the old Ford F-150. The one Grandpa called Old Blue and tricked out with a CB radio for bullshitting truckers on I-80. The codicil burned a hole in my glove box. That single sheet of yellow legal pad paper with Grandpa's scrawl like a dying man's last stand. I'd forged nothing. Hell,
No.
I'd witnessed it all. His eyes fierce behind the pain as he dictated the terms. Make him squirm.
Fin.
Make him own it.
Now.
With the family baying for blood. I wondered if squirming was enough, or if I'd have to twist the knife deeper. Pulled into the gravel drive as dusk bruised the sky purple. The porch light flickering like a hesitant heartbeat. The house loomed, all clapboard siding and sagging gutters. A monument to the American dream on life support. Inside, the air hung heavy with the scent of Benghazi and burnt coffee. Grandpa's ghost in every corner, the recliner still dented from his frame. The kitchen table scarred from 1,000 poker games. I cracked a beer from the fridge, the hiss echoing too loud, and sank into his chair. staring at the family photo on the mantel. Us kids at 12, 13, 17, arms slung around each other under a harvest moon, grins wide as the river.
Lies.
All of it. That night in '09, when Eddie handed me the baggie to stash, just hold it till the heat dies. Bro, I'd done it because I thought blood meant loyalty. Not a life sentence of sidelong glances and second chances denied. My phone lit up like a slot machine, voicemails stacking. Texts pinging. Mom first. Finley James Whitaker. You call me right now. This is extortion. Your grandfather was senile. Senile. My ass. The man balanced books in his head till the end. Dad's was gruffer. Laced with that bourbon slur. Son, we need to talk. Eddie's got a lawyer friend in Peoria.
Of course he did.
Lila's was pure drama queen. Crying emojis. Pleas about the kids needing stability. How I was ruining everything like I hadn't been the family dumpster fire for years. Eddie? A single text. Meet me at the river. Midnight. Come alone. The river. Our old spot. The levee where the Mississippi churned black under freight train bridges. Where we'd skip rocks and smoke stolen camels as teens. Fitting, I thought. Draining the beer and grabbing my jacket. The rain had quit, leaving the air thick as gumbo. Fireflies winking like faulty wiring. I tooled down Route 67. Past the neon glow of the aisle of Capri Casino where Dad had flushed half our inheritance. Past the strip malls hawking fireworks and funnel cakes. Parked at the access road. Boots crunching gravel to the water's edge. Where Eddie waited, silhouette sharp against the current. A flask glinting in his hand. Finn, he said, voice low, offering the flask. Whiskey. Top shelf. The kind Grandpa kept for emergencies. I took a pull, fire blooming in my chest, and handed it back. What the fuck was that back there? You think a scribble on paper gives you the right to play God? I laughed, a bark that startled a heron into flight. God?
Nah. Eddie.
Just the bill collector. You remember '09? That baggie you shoved in my hands while you rabbit? The cops finding my prints because you were too chicken shit to wipe them? I did 18 months so you could salute the flag and spin yarns about sand and IEDs. His face hardened, that vet mask cracking, scar on his cheek from a real wound, not the bullshit he peddled. It was a mistake.
Month.
Heat of the moment. You were the lookout, it made sense. Sense. Like pinning a felony on your kid brother made sense for a clean slate. He paced, flask sloshing. Look, we can fix this. Pool our shares. Buy out your stake. Lila's got connections through Chad, real estate flips in Des Moines. We make it right. No hard feelings. No hard feelings. The words hung. Mocking. Eddie was always the flipper, loyal 1 minute. Snake the next. In the army, he'd fragged his own CO for a promotion. Or so the rumors went, walking away with a Purple Heart and a story that got him consulting gigs with defense contractors. Here he was, flipping again, offering scraps to keep the empire intact. But Grandpa's codicil demanded truth. Public airing. And I could see the calculation in his eyes. By silence. Bury the past deeper. Tell you what, I said, stepping closer. The river's murmur underscoring like a bad omen. Confess.
Right now. To me.
To the family. To Hargrove. Admit you set me up. And maybe I petition the court to unfreeze your cut. His laugh was bitter. Wind whipping it away. Confess? And what? Tank my business? Lose the house? You're dreaming.
Fun.
This ain't some Lifetime movie. Blood's blood. We stick together. Stick? Like you stuck me with a rap? The flask hit the ground, splashing amber into the mud. He lunged. Not hard. Just a shove to the chest. But it ignited something feral. I shoved back. Years of pent-up road rage uncoiling. And we grappled. Grunts echoing off the water. Fists glancing off ribs like dull thuds. He was stronger. Bulked from gym memberships on Grandpa's tab. But I was meaner. Honed by prison yard scraps and 18-wheel solitude. A knee to the gut dropped him. Gasping. And I pinned him. Knee on his chest. Fist cocked. Say it.
Eddie.
Say you fucked me over.
His eyes. Wild.
Met mine, fear. Yes. But cunning too. Fine, he wheezed. I did it. Pushed you under the bus. Happy. Not happy.
Hollow.
I let him up. Both of us panting. The river indifferent. He straightened his jacket, wiping blood from a split lip. But you tell that story. You destroy us all. Mom's heart. Dad's debts. Lila's kids, think about it. He walked away, limping to his SUV. Taillights fading into the night like a bad decision. Back at the ranch. Sleep evaded. Ghosts pacing the floorboards. I fired up Grandpa's old IBM desktop. The one with dial-up scars. And dug into emails, old ones. From the safe deposit box key he'd slipped me. Folders labeled insurance, but really insurance against them. Bank statements showing Eddie's siphoned loans, Lila's credit card fraud under Mom's name. Dad's bookie tabs paid from company funds. Grandpa had documented it all. A paper trail of betrayal. Hidden not to expose, but to protect the family secret he bore like a cross. Just like I'd borne the jail time. By dawn, my plan crystallized. Not just truth, but leverage. The will reading was round 2. I'd drag them through the probate mud. Force confessions in court if need be. Watch them fracture like cheap glass. Morning brought Lila to the door. Unannounced. Her yoga pants and messy bun screaming, desperate housewife. She hugged me stiffly. Makeup fresh, but eyes puffy.
Fun. Please.
The codicil, it's cruel. Grandpa wouldn't, but her voice trailed, because we both knew he would. She brewed coffee, strong and black, and we sat at the scarred table, the silence thick as fog off the river. Remember when we were kids, she started? The manipulation playbook, page 1. You.
Me.
Eddie building forts in the barn. Stealing Grandpa's cigars. We were unbreakable. Unbreakable until you let Eddie pin it on me. I cut in. Voice flat. Her face crumpled. Genuine this time? I was scared.
Fun.
13. Watching my brother get hauled away. I told Mom it was you because Eddie said it'd protect us all.
Protect.
The word soured. She reached for my hand, nails digging like claws. We can fight this. Chad knows a judge in Scott County.
Or
we go to counseling. Family therapy. Make it right without the lawyers. Therapy. Like talking could erase the bar tabs I covered for Dad's benders. The nights I drove Lila home from frat parties, too wasted to remember her own name. But there was the flip, Lila. Always the chameleon. Victim one breath. Viper the next. Last year, she'd borrowed $50,000 from Grandpa for a business venture, which turned out to be Botox and a timeshare in Branson.
Now.
Tears streaming. She flipped to Ally. Help me.
Fun.
Against Eddie, he's the real snake. Always was. If we team up, we split the trucking firm. Leave him out. Tempting. That divide and conquer whisper. Split them. Watch the wolves turn on each other. But blood's a chain. And Grandpa's ghost loomed. No mercy for flippers. Confess first, I said, echoing the night before. On record. Admit your part. Her eyes hardened, the sister vanishing into the schemer. You're no better. Finley. Holding grudges like a junkie holds dope. This revenge? It's poison. She stormed out, tires spinning gravel, leaving me with cooling coffee and a resolve sharpening like a blade. The week blurred into probate prep, Hargrove's office a revolving door of affidavits and asset valuations. Mom cornered me there, her perfume cloying as regret. Your father and I. We failed you, son. But this? It's tearing us apart.
Failed.
Understatement of the century. They'd signed off on the plea deal. Coached me to take responsibility for a crime they knew was Eddie's.
Now.
With the estate in limbo, Dad's bookies circling like sharks. She flipped to beggar. Just a loan.
Fun.
Against my share. For old times, Thanksgivings with turducken and touch football. Before the cracks spiderwebbed. I almost buckled. Almost. But then Eddie called a family summit at the VFW hall. Neutral ground smelling of stale beer and faded glory. We gathered in the back room, under banners from Korea and Desert Storm, tension crackling like a storm front. Eddie took charge. Of course. Pacing like Patton. This codicil's bullshit. We contest it, claim undue influence.
Senility.
Hargrove's in our pocket. Our pocket? The flip again. From conciliatory to coup leader. Lila nodded eagerly. Dad grunted approval. Mom wrung her hands. My turn. I slapped the folder down, Grandpa's evidence. Printouts yellowed but damning. Contest? Go ahead. While you're at it, explain these to the IRS. Or the DA. Gasps rippled. Eddie's face paled. Then flushed rage. You little shit. Blackmail? Truth, I countered. The kind you denied me for 16 years. Fists clenched. Voices rose, Lila screeching about betrayal. Dad muttering curses. Mom sobbing into her sleeve. It was chaos. Beautiful and ugly. The family facade shattering like a dropped Pabst. As we spilled into the parking lot, rain starting again, Eddie pulled me aside. Voice a hiss. You push this.
Fun.
I pushed back. Hard. Threat veiled as warning. The schemer's art. I met his gaze. Unflinching.
Push.
See what falls. Driving home. Wipers marching. I felt the tension coil tighter. Dark. Controversial decisions looming. Like whether to leak to the press or let the courts grind slow. Grandpa's revenge was a beast. And I was its reins. But who tames who in the end? Probate dragged like a flatbed with a blown tire. Weeks bleeding into months under Iowa's relentless winter. Snow blanketing the fields in a hush that mocked our screaming matches. Hargrove's office became neutral turf. A coliseum where gladiators traded barbs over decaf and donuts. The codicil stood firm, Grandpa's mind sharp as a tack till the last. Witnesses lining up like dominoes to testify. But the family lawyered up, Eddie with his Peoria shark. A guy named Kessler who looked like he'd sue his own mother for custody of the womb. Lila and Chad tapping some Des Moines firm with corporate sheen. Mom and Dad pooling for a public defender type who chain-smoked outside.
Me? Solo.
Hargrove pro bono because Grandpa's will named him executor, and the old man had a soft spot for underdogs. Depositions were a circus of half-truths and hot air. Eddie first. Under fluorescent buzz. Kessler coaching whispers like a quarterback. Mr. Whitaker, Hargrove intoned. Your involvement in the 2009 incident. Eddie straightened.
Vet polisglidning.
Misunderstanding. Finley was there. Sure. But it was mutual. Kid stuff. Mutual. Like sharing a flu shot. I snorted from the corner, earning a glare. Then Lila. Mascara running under the AC vent. I don't remember much. Trauma.
You know?
But Finn was always impulsive. Impulsive. That's what they called the kid who took the fall to keep her from foster care. My turn came last. The room thick with anticipation. I laid it out plain, the baggie. The panic. Eddie's plea on his knees in the alley, behind the quick trip. Family, I said. Voice steady. Means covering, but not erasing. Hargrove nodded. Scribbling, across the table. Mom wept silent. Dad stared at his shoes. Eddie flipped mid-session, lunging across with lies, before Kessler reined him. Controversial? Hell yes. Accusations flew of planted evidence. Of my resentment poisoning the well. The judge. A no-nonsense woman from Bettendorf with a gavel like Thor's hammer. Called a recess. Her eyes saying we'd all lost something sacred. Winter deepened. Isolation, my only ally. The ranch turned fortress. Drifts piling against doors. Me snowblowing the drive in sub-zero bite, while satellite TV droned Fox News rants about border walls and cancel culture. Fitting backdrop, America's underbelly, where Rust Belt dreams curdle into grudges. I worked odd shifts for a rival fleet, hauling loads to Omaha. The road a confessional where CB chatter filled the void, truckers griping about regs.
Wives. The grind.
One night, stuck in a blizzard outside Council Bluffs, I called Sarah, ex from juvie days, now a nurse in Lincoln. Finley Whitaker. The ghost returns, she teased. Voice warm as bourbon. We talked hours. Her laughing at my codicil saga. Me unburdening the weight. Revenge is a hollow meal, she warned. Eat it. And you're still hungry. Wise.
Sarah.
But hunger's what drives a man when the plate's empty. Family strikes came sporadic. Calculated. Dad showed solo one February dawn. Unshaven. Breath-reeking cores. Lone. Son.
Just till settlement.
I handed him coffee instead. Black as his soul. He slumped. Spilling. Eddie's business was a front for loan-sharking expats. Lila's marriage crumbling under Chad's affairs. We're drowning.
Fun.
Your pop. He enabled it. Enabled. Grandpa's flaw. Loving too fierce. Covering sins like a blizzard buries bones. Dad flipped then. From borrower to confessor. I knew about the bust. Signed the papers myself. Thought it'd toughen you. Toughen. Like jail was boot camp. I threw him out. Door slamming echo in the snow. But his words stuck. A barb in the flesh. Lila's play was subtler. Valentine's ambush. Showing with heart-shaped cookies and the kids in tow. Towheads with Chad's jawline and her eyes. Uncle Finn, they squealed. Hugging my legs. Innocence a weapon sharper than any knife. We baked in the kitchen. Flour dusting cheeks. laughter bubbling like forgotten joy. Then, over milk and crumbs, she struck. The kids ask about you. Say you're the strong one. Drop this. For them. The flip, mother bear to manipulator. I knelt, ruffling hair, throat tight. Aunt Lila's right. But truth's the strongest. She left fuming. Kids, waving from the minivan, their faces haunting as the door clicked shut. Eddie saved the venom for March. Post-thaw mud season. Cornering me at a truck stop off I-74. His SUV idled, exhaust curling like cigarette smoke. Kessler's got dirt, he growled, window down. Your jivvy file fights. Contraband. Push the codicil. It goes public. Blackmail.
Pure.
I leaned in, close enough to smell his cologne masking sweat. Dirt? Try embezzlement. That consulting gig? Grandpa's books show $200K funneled to offshore accounts. His eyes narrowed. Schemer assessing. Then the flip. Partners?
Then.
We expose Lila and the folks. Split the pie 80-20. Your call. Brother. 80-20. The devil's bargain. Dividing the rot to save the core. I drove away, his curses fading in the rearview. But the offer nod, controversial. Yes. Allying with the devil to gut the beast. Nights. I pored over Grandpa's journals. Leather-bound relics from his trucking days. Entries in faded ink. Finley's the keeper. The others. They'll sell their shadows for gold. Secrets layered, not just the bust, but Grandpa's own nom-ghosts. A court-martial dodged by framing a buddy. A debt he'd carried silent. He'd borne mistakes for love, just as I'd borne for family. Was I repeating or redeeming? Climax brewed in April. Court date looming like a squall line. The family convened at Mom's double-wide in Riverdale. A ceasefire dinner she insisted on. Pot roast simmering with desperation. Table set with the good china, cracked but proud, candlelight flickering over faces drawn tight. Small talk skated thin ice. Weather. The Cubs' prospects. Anything but the elephant. Then Eddie, ever the instigator, toasted to Grandpa. And to moving on. Glasses clinked, but mine stayed down. I stood, folder in hand, the full dossier, USB drive tucked inside. Moving on, without settling accounts. Chaos ignited. Lila hurled accusations. You're obsessed. Dad pounded the table. Mom begged for peace. Eddie flipped to aggressor, shoving back his chair. Enough. We vote, contesting the will. All in. Hands raised. 4-1. Betrayal afresh.
I got punch landing solid.
But I had the ace slamming the folder down. Pages scattering like confetti from hell. Statements. Emails. The bust's unredacted report with Eddie's prints smudged but there. Silence crashed. Then pandemonium. Lila screamed. Fabrications. Dad paled, recognizing his signature on falsified loans. Mom collapsed, sobbing.
Why?
Lord. Eddie lunged for the papers, but I blocked. Bodies colliding in a tangle of limbs and curses. Controversial? It divided us razor-sharp, no heroes. Just survivors clawing the lifeboat. As cops hauled us apart, domestic disturbance call from a neighbor, the judge's chambers loomed. Would I press charges? Leaked to the Quad City Times? Decisions loomed dark. Tense. The heart of it all pulsing. Revenge's cost. Paid in fractured souls. In the squad car. Cuffs loose but symbolic. I met Eddie's glare across the divide. You started this, he spat. We end it. But whose end? The family's? Or mine? May bloomed bloody in the courts of Scott County. Dogwoods mocking the frost of our feuds with pink defiance. The hearing on the codicil was a thrilling media circus, local press sniffing probate drama like blood in the water. Headlines screaming, family feud over trucking tycoon's fortune, betrayal or justice? I became the villain du jour. Juvie jaded grandson blackmails kin, while Eddie spun vet hero narratives on Facebook Lives. Likes pouring in from armchair patriots. Hargrove coached me through it, his drawl soothing as river mud. Stick to facts. Finley. Emotions are the prosecution's friend. Prosecution? Felt more like inquisition. The bench of pyre where truths burned bright and ugly. Opening arguments set the tone. Kessler for the consortium. Painting Grandpa as doddering. Me as grudge-nursing Gollum clutching his precious shares. My side? Simple. Intent clear. Mind sound. The codicil a clarion call for accountability. Witnesses paraded. The notary. A retired teacher with no skin in the game. The doc who'd signed off on Grandpa's lucidity. Even Sarah. Flown in from Lincoln. Testifying to my character over grainy Zoom. Her voice steady. Finley's loyal to a fault. That's his curse. Curse.
Yeah.
Eddie took the stand first. Oak-paneled courtroom his stage. In dress blues borrowed from a VFW buddy. He recounted no. '09 like a bedtime fable. We were kids. Your Honor. A prank gone wrong. Finley stepped up brave. Really?
Brave.
The word twisted like barbed wire. Under cross. He flipped. Sweat beading. Okay. I panicked. But it was survival. Army taught me that. Survival. The judge's eyes narrowed. Pen scratching notes. Applause?
None.
Just the AC hum and Lila's sniffles from the gallery. Lila followed. A vision in pastel sweater. The penitent sister. I was scared, she wept. Tissues fluttering. Blamed Finn too. Protect him?
No.
Myself. Therapies helped me see. Therapy billed to the estate. Naturally. But cracks showed under Hargrove's gentle probing, and the $50,000 venture? Cocaine-fueled spa weekends in Scottsdale. Her face flamed. Flipped to fury. That's private. Irrelevant. Gasps rippled. The reporter in the back row typed furiously.
Controversial waters churning. No victim pure. No sine irredemable.
Mom and Dad tag-teamed. A duet of dysfunction. Mom's testimony dissolved into hysterics. My babies. All of Dad. Stone-faced. Admitted the signatures. Desperation makes fools. But his flip came raw. Finley's right. I failed him. Should have taken the hit myself. Redemption arc? Too late. The court smelled the act. Then me. Under the lights. Voice gravel from disuse. I recounted the alley. The plea. The cell's clang echoing in dreams. Not for glory. For family. But family's gotta give back. Questions probed. Resentment? Bias? I owned it. Hate?
Sure.
But truth ain't vengeance. It scales. The judge adjourned. Face unreadable. Leaving us to stew in the antechamber's vinyl chairs.
Outside.
Press swarmed. Mics thrusting. Flashes popping like gunfire. Eddie shouldered through. Snarling at a kid from the dispatch. This is private hell. Back off. Private? He'd live-streamed his prep. Lila clutched the kids. Shields against the lens. while Mom shielded her eyes, Dad vanishing into the crowd like smoke. I slipped away, Hargrove's hand on my shoulder, strong. Son. But mercy's a choice too.
Mercy.
The words soured on my tongue as I drove the backroads. Cornstalk sentinels whispering doubts. Home brought no peace, voicemails from unknown numbers. Hang-ups from bookies tracing Dad's scent. Then Kessler's call. Oily. Settle out of court. Your share intact. Theirs halved. No further leaks.
Halved.
The flip from attack to armistice. Eddie's fingerprints all over. I countered. Full confession.
Public.
Or we dance. He laughed.
Tinny.
Bold. But Eddie's got counters. Your road infractions. That bar fight in 18. Counters. The game endless. Dark tendrils wrapping tighter. Sarah visited that weekend. Her Subaru crunching gravel. Arms laden with Omaha steaks and a six-pack of reconciliation. We grilled on the porch. Smoke curling under stars pinpricked like bullet holes. Her head on my shoulder as fireflies danced. You're winning, she murmured. But at what? At peace?
No.
At justice? Closer. We made love slow, reclaiming fragments of youth stolen. Her breath hitching as I traced tattoos faded but telling. Morning. Over eggs. She pressed. End it.
Fun.
Take the win. Walk.
Walk.
Into what? More halls. Empty bunks? But her eyes held the mirror. Weary. Divided. The divide deepened out of forced mediation. Neutral ground in a Moline conference suite overlooking the river's gleam. We circled the table like wolves. Kessler facilitating with false bonhomie. Proposals flew. Eddie's 80-20 redux. Lila's therapy for shares plea. Mom's tearful equal split.
No strings.
Dad's silent. Nursing coffee. My offer. Restitution. Eddie repays the loans. Lila audits or spends. I'll sign Eddie's confession for my records expungement. Silence stretched. Then Eddie flipped spectacular. Screw this. I confess right here. He stood. Voice booming. I set Finley up. Pushed the baggie.
Ran.
Coward shit. Happy. Stunned hush. Lila gasped. Mom clutched Dad, who nodded faint approval. But Eddie's eyes gleamed, cunning. The schemer's endgame. In exchange, he continued, we dissolve the codicil. Full equal shares. And Finley, you back off the books.
No IRS. No da.
Back off. The twist. His confession a poison pill. Public but neutered. Buying peace with partial truth. Controversial as hell. Did it absolve or enable? I stared. The room tilting. Sign? And betray Grandpa's ghost? Refuse? And watch the empire auctioned in appeals? Fists clenched under the table. Pulse thundering. Deal. I rasped. The word ash. Gasps anew. Sarah's face flashing judgment. Handshakes exchanged. Brittle as autumn leaves. The mediator beaming like a used car salesman. Outside. Rain-lashed windows. Eddie clapping my back. Brothers again. Brothers. The lie tasted metallic. Driving home. Wipers frantic. Regret coiled. A decision dark. Tense. Splitting me down the seam. Had I won? Or folded? Nights fractured after. Dreams of the river. Eddie's flask sinking into murk. I dug deeper. Hacking Grandpa's old email with passwords from his journals. Bloodthick 09. Uncovering more. Eddie's offshore not just skim, but laundering for a Chicago crew. Ties to the '09 buyer who'd vanished post-bust. Grandpa knew, buried it to protect.
But now?
Leverage reborn. The mediation deal hung and signed. A ghost clause. Call Kessler? Expose? Or let the confession stand? Mercy's bitter pill? Family fractured further. Lila texting olive branches. Mom baking pies, left on porches. Dad calling collect from a motel. Debts mounting. Eddie? Radio silent. But his Facebook glowed, healing with kin. Family first, lies layered. Then the call. Sarah. Voice cracking.
Fine.
I'm out. Can't watch you drown.
Drown.
The truth. Revenge's tide pulls all under. Climax crested in June. Estate auction looming if no accord. I summoned them to the ranch. The heart of it all. Under harvest moon redux. Table laden with Grandpa's bourbon. Stories flowing false at first. Then I played the ace. Laptop open to the emails. Laundering trail blinking damning. Confession wasn't enough.
Eddie.
This is. Chaos redux screams. Shoves. Mom fainting into Dad's arms. Eddie flipped final. Rage to plea. Help me.
Fin. Feds come.
We're all complicit. Complicit. The mirror again, no clean hands. Decisions loomed. Controversial crucibles. Turn him in. Save the shares. Cover. Like Grandpa? The night stretched. Tensions electric. Dark as the river's throat. July scorched the plains like God's own forge. Heat waves shimmering off blacktop as the final hearing dawned in a packed Scott County courthouse. Air conditioners wheezing surrender. The gallery swelled. Press. Distant cousins. Even a few trucker buddies I'd radioed for moral support. Their flannel shirts a sea of quiet solidarity. I sat front row. Suit ill-fitting from disuse.
Sarah's absence à l'obésité.
The mediation deal had crumbled overnight. Eddie's confession tape, secretly recorded at the ranch, leaked by my anonymous tip to the DA, igniting federal probes into his consulting web. Blood in the water. And the sharks, FBI suits and cheap ties, circled the estate like vultures upgraded to eagles. Judge Harlan, her gavel a scepter of finality, called order. Hargrove open crisp. Codicil upheld. Assets to me per terms. Restitution ordered. Gasps. Cheers from my corner. Then Kessler. Voice oily as ever. New evidence. Your Honor. Mr. Whitaker Jr.'s. Indiscretions taint the proceedings.
Extortion via leaks.
Extortion. The word hung. Controversial barb aimed to bleed me dry. Eddie testified last. Shackled now. Orange jumpsuit clashing his tan. Finley set me up, he spat. Flipped to accuser. Knew about the money. Baited the confession. Revenge porn for a family grudge.
Grudge.
The courtroom murmured. Divided, some nodding his vet pathos. Others my righteous fire. Cross burned hot. Hargrove produced the journals. Grandpa's hand chronicling Eddie's schemes back to '09. Self-preservation. Not spite. I affirmed under oath. Voice cracking first time. The bust details spilled raw. The blade. The shot. My blind loyalty. I took it for love. He took everything for greed. Tears.
Mine.
Silent. As Mom wailed from the bench. Lila testified neutral. Flipped to fence-sitter. We all aired.
But fin.
He's broken us. Broken. Truth's scalpel cuts deep. Closing arguments cleave the air, justice versus mercy. No victors clear. Judge recessed. Hours ticking like a bomb. Outside. Press hounded. Mr. Whitaker. Is this win or war?
Va.
Always. Inside. Family fragments. Dad clasped my hand. Gruff. Proud.
Son.
Finally. Mom hugged fierce. Whispering forgiveness. Lila lingered. Eyes soft. Heal with us?
Heal.
Possible? Eddie. Led away. Met my gaze, no hate. Just hollow. You got me.
Bro.
Fair play.
Fair.
The words ghost. Verdict dropped at dusk. Codicil enforced. My control of the empire. Eddie's assets seized for laundering trial. Lila's debts audited. Parents' shares garnished for restitution. Cheers erupted. But mine choked. Victory ash. The twist hit post-gavel. In chambers, Judge Harlan. Off record. Slid a envelope. Your grandfather's last wish. Read alone. Trembling. I tore it. Letter from Grandpa. Dated his final day.
Fat.
If you're reading this, you did it. Expose the rot. But son, forgive.
Not for them. For you.
The trucking firm's yours. But the real inheritance? Freedom. Sell it all. Start clean. Love. Pop. Freedom. The gut punch twist. Revenges crown a hollow throne.
Grandpa.
The ultimate flipper, from enabler to emancipator. Outside. Rain fell sudden, washing the steps as I emerged. Press scattered. Family waited. Tentative under umbrellas. Eddie already en route to county lockup. But Lila stepped forward. What now?
Now.
Sell? Forgive? Or burn it by kitsch? Months blurred to autumn. Leaves turning like pages. I liquidated piecemeal. Trucks to arrival in Peoria. Farm leased to organics. Portfolio diversified into solar startups. A nod to future over grudge. Eddie pled out. 5 years federal. Letter smuggled. Hate me? Good. Taught me.
Taught.
Lila divorced Chad. Moved closer with kids. Weekends at the ranch, tentative bridges. Mom and Dad, sober stints. AA meetings I funded quiet. Sarah returned, hesitant. Heard you won. Lose anything. Everything. Nothing. The end?
No taidi bau.
Last harvest moon. I stood levee-side. River churning eternal. Flask grandpa's in hand. Poured a libation. Words lost to wind. Forgave. Pop. Mostly. Drove west. Old blue humming toward horizons unwritten. Maybe a ranch in Wyoming. Sarah shotgun. Or solo hauls chasing sunsets. Controversial still. Was it justice? Or just another layer of lies? Readers, you judge.
Me?
I breathe free. Scars fading. The American dark lifting slow. Blood's thick. But rivers run deeper.